Hey kids, Rich here from Castles, Capes, and Clones, and today we'll be looking at the Luke Skywalker Return of the Jedi Lightsabers. Yes, plural, lightsabers. So join me on today's episode of Hyperspace Hijinks. So back in the early aughts, or 2000s, a company called Master Replicas had the license from Lucasfilm to create prop-like lightsabers with the blade that lights up, like the kind of ones we know now. But they were the first ones to really do it on a mass scale, and they had, and it was a line called the Force FX line. So basically, they made the hilts and with attached blades, so you couldn't remove it, and they lit up with LED lights or whatever they used back then, with the power up, power down lights, sounds and stuff. It was really cool because before that, you know, the lightsabers that you can buy were either really expensive, just hilts, or like the plastic toys. Like my first lightsaber was a kind of glorified flashlight with an inflatable yellow tube on it, and then you had like, now it could have been because I was a kid, but like these really girthy plastic lightsabers with a blade, but it had this little thing on top of the tip that when you waved it around would go, air would flow through it and make a little woo sound. So that's what I had as a kid. And then later on they had the telescoping lightsabers that always look like cones, so wasn't quite accurate looking. But then when Master Replicas came out with the Force FX line, they actually looked like lightsabers, so it was cool. The only thing of drawback was that at the time they didn't make any that had a removable blade, so you just had always carried around with a blade on it. So I bought the basically the first lightsaber I bought was the Return of the Jedi Luke Skywalker Saber, and I have that here. So this is the Master Replicas Luke Skywalker Return of the Jedi Saber. This came out probably 2005, 2004, maybe. I remember I bought it from a bookstore because there wasn't really any where to buy these. Online was very early, so you couldn't really do it online, so you had to find it. And they were selling it at a Borders Books, if you kids know what that is. It was probably the competition to Barnes & Noble, basically. But like I said, it's attached, so the blade does not come off. You can kind of see here that it's very straight, right? There's really no deviation line here. And this part, if you know what Luke's lightsaber looks like, this is kind of a matte copper bronze look, but this should be thinner. And same thing with this black part here, should be thinner. And there should be a bigger kind of bezel on these rings here. So while, it's close, it's not movie accurate, but at the time this thing was crazy. But yeah, but flash forward to 2019 when Galaxy's Edge opened at Disneyland. They were selling Legacy lightsabers, which include the Luke Skywalker Return of the Jedi one, and I have that as well. So like all the Legacy lightsabers at Galaxy's Edge, it comes in this nice plastic case. You see here it has the Rebel Alliance symbol, but it's green because Luke's lightsaber is green, I guess. And it looks like this. So already you can kind of tell it looks like the lightsaber you're kind of used to from the movies, right? I don't know if you can hear that, but the Disneyland fireworks are going off right now. But you can see here it has the correct look for the emitter with the thin brass part and black part here. And there's a lot more of a bezel on these rings here. And when you look at it, it's not technically just straight. There's a little bit of deviation there. But, you know, the problem with this saber is it's very hard to put a blade on here because of how thin this is. Now, you can go online and find custom sabers, companies that make the Luke Skywalker saber. They won't call it that for licensing rights. But they do have it where you can attach a blade to this. But, you know, they even say don't hit things with it and whatnot because it doesn't really go in that far. So it doesn't really have a good, solid connection that's very stable. So it's very weak. So, but you can't put a blade on something with an emitter this thin. Galaxy Z doesn't do that because they know kids. And they want to be able to at least swing it around and maybe lightly tap things. So they did something similar to Leia's saber, which if you haven't watched my deep dive into Leia's saber, you can catch it in the description below. They give you a second top half that you can screw in. You can screw this part off and screw that in to make it look similar to this one, where it has enough room for a blade. And that looks like this. So you can see it's pretty much the whole top half of this. And compared to this, you can kind of see it's a little different. Oddly enough, this is thinner on the Master Replica one than this one. So, but maybe it's because electronics and this the mechanism to have a removable blade instead of a fixed one. So basically, you take this, unscrew the top. It's very easy. Screw this back in. Like so. And then when you take a blade, insert in, hear that sound, give it a little twist, and there you go. So before I turn them on, you can see the differences here. Like I said, it looks like this the Master Replica is a little bit taller. The whatever you call this thing is like the guard is a little bit bigger on this than it is on this one. Like I said, oddly enough, this part is a little bit thinner than this one. But again, this is fixed and this is removable, so that might be a reason for that. Otherwise, if you look at the control box here, you can see that the Master Replica has those two triangles, and they are colored, like red and green, whereas the one on the Galaxy's Edge one is black. I'm not sure which one is screen accurate. I want to actually say it's this one, but I'd look it up. Does have the same triangle ring that you can put on your belt clip. This one's a little bit more stiff or tight, so I don't know if that's because of time or whatever. The Galaxy's Edge one does take 3 AA batteries, where the Master Replicas take 6 AA batteries. It was crazy back then. All right, so I'm sure you want to see these lit up, so let's go do that. All right, let's fire up the Master Replica one first. You can hear the light up, or the power up sequence, and a little bit of the swing. It's not as bright. It might be because the batteries are old, but and it's an old saber. This is like 15, 16 years old. You can see a little bit of there's banding in the LED strips. Again, could be age, could be the batteries. Not really sure. Not enough. There's the power down sound. Now let's go with the Galaxy's Edge one. You can see, now I don't know if you can see it in the camera, but I also do see a little bit of banding where the LEDs are. But you know, from afar, it's very hard to tell. And definitely on film, I think it's hard to tell. It does have a different hum sound and a different swing sound. A little more subtle in the swing. But one thing that the Galaxy's Edge has is the that blaster defect light switch, or it turns almost yellowish a little bit. The Master Replica does not. So this is what it looks like. Both of them. You can kind of see. I think the Master Replica one is a little bit more sensitive than this one, but I think the sound from the Galaxy's Edge one sounds better. So yeah, there is the 2004-2005 lightsaber, and here is the 2019 lightsaber. Let's do one more comparison. Let's actually compare this saber to a saber that was inspired by it, and that is Leia's lightsaber. All right, so here we have the Luke saber and the Leia saber. Now, this is the Leia saber that was adapted for a blade. As you can also tell, it's thicker on the top, so you can't really see where this would look like Luke's, but if we remove this part and the blades, we can compare just the hilts. So again, this is Luke's emitter, more screen accurate. You can see again with the thinner emitter. And Leia's looks like this. So there, you have the two sabers. Now when I say compare the two, obviously this is Luke's sister's saber, and I say it's inspired by Luke's because if you kind of invert this, it kind of looks like Luke's, minus the top half, right, with this kind of ringy part, similar to this, and the thin emitter part over there, just in reverse, right? And obviously this part is the part that is unique to hers, but is also seen in Ben Solo's and Kylo Ren's lightsaber, this kind of look. So that's pretty interesting that it gets passed on to her son. Now, this is a newer saber than this one. This was out like 2019. This came out 2021. This is a little heavier than this. This is actually pretty light. But not as light, I think, as Obi-Wan's. Obi-Wan's is a pretty light lightsaber. So yeah. So there you go, kids. That is the Luke and Leia lightsabers. This one is from 2004 to 2005 by a company called Master Replicas, which had the license before Hasbro did. This is the Galaxy's Edge Luke's lightsaber that's sold at Disney parks, created by Disney. And this is the Leia saber, also a Legacy saber from the Disney parks. There you go. There you go. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you all on the flip side.